Sports Stories with Denny Lennon, the home of the CAC Docent Award nominated Best Video Podcast Series. Please leave a message.
Hi, Denny. This is Bruno Kirby calling. I just want to say that, I like the show and everything. I'm a big sports fan, but I wish you would show Marley more and Christine more instead of your ugly mug up there looking like a, wannabe John Elway sort of. And, but other than that, I like the show and, Gilbert's is a great place to have Mexican food and, I don't know what else to say. Anyway, good luck with this whole thing, but you might want to cover up that mug.
The year I was born, 1964, our 36th president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, led the battle to push through the landmark Civil Rights Act. The Beatles changed music history forever with their appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. And perhaps the greatest coach in sports history, one John Robert Wooden, led the UCLA Bruins to the first of their 10 championships over a 12-year span. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan, one that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Hello, sports historians. Welcome to audio video podcast number 75 of Sports Stories with Denny Lennon, our diamond episode. The Ides of March are upon us. That means March Madness is coming, and we're getting fired up. We're going to put the focus on the greatest coach in March Madness NCAA basketball history, none other than John Wooden. We're going to go a two-parter, and in this first part, producer Marley Rice, who's going to be in it?
So we're going to have three of our guests that spoke about John Wooden in their interviews, and we're just going to go back to back to back with them. So I hope you guys enjoy these three snippets of our interviews, first with Andre McCarter, then we move on to Sam Lagana, and we finish up with the one and only Randy Rosenbloom. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode with John Wooden.
He's a two-time All-American from Overbrook High School in Philadelphia, the famous Overbrook High School. He's a 1975 national champion. Let's bring him on. He's coming by phone. Andre McCarter. Hi, Andre. You there?
Hey, Denny. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for all of your efforts on coming on the show. Much appreciated.
Oh, no problem.
Very exciting. I got to tell you, Andre, my youth was tied so closely into your UCLA teams because I was born in 64. So by the time I was really catching up with the Bruins, I was anywhere 7, 8 years old and jumped on that bandwagon. But man, that 75 team was my team. And you're the guy that took them to that championship.
Yeah, it's a great time. And especially for a little boy, I'm sure, this time to see a team that was winning all the time probably gave you a good foundation that you got to work hard and do good things to, try to reach the top. And it wasn't easy, but it was fun. And it was a great time, an unbelievable basketball time.
Absolutely. Coach Wooden often spoke about your team, and he didn't often single out players or teams, but he did just seem to single out that team an awful lot about, how much he enjoyed coaching that team. Did you kind of feel that? Because you had certainly been part of the program for a while. Did you feel that particular year?
Yeah, it was different because, he had a team that I was a part of earlier on that had won 88 straight games, and that equates to about 2 NCAA undefeated seasons. I mean, they went 60-0 and broke Bill Russell's record by going 61 games straight because Bill Russell won 2 at USF in college. And so it was a big deal. And that team had, after you keep going to the mountaintop, it can be difficult to keep climbing that mountain again. And, guys, no matter how much you try, some guys get a little, not big-headed, I don't want to say, but just feel like, they could just do it again without remembering, making sure all the little details that Coach was so good at that were still important to win. And so I think he felt the pressure because of Bill Walton and similar like when Lou Alcindor was at UCLA, that you were supposed to win. And that's another pressure that Coach Wooden had to deal with. The fact those teams you were supposed to win 3 in a row.
Which was ridiculous. Like those expectations are ridiculous when you consider how many great teams were out there in those days, how many great players, were across the landscape, and it's unreal what your teams did achieve.
Right. Well, yeah. When you played every game, the opponent, you're talking about a target on the back or the front or whatever you want to call it. You definitely had that because you were the target every time someone played. They try to get. They could. But to answer your question about and then in '75, I think they thought they had Wooden. They had Wooden this time. You're not going to win. Bill Walton's going. Jamal Wilkes gone. This guy's going. That guy's going from that group of team, part of our team, that they just felt like they had one. So for us, we didn't cause trouble for Coach. Not that the other team did a lot, but just had different personalities. And our team was just wanting to prove itself. Myself and Pete Turkovich, we were overlooked. People, didn't realize the sacrifices we made to play at UCLA. They didn't think we were as good as we ended up showing that we were. And they thought, UCLA didn't have the manpower to win another championship. So they figured this was it for Wooden after, North Carolina State beat us in 1974. That was going to be the end of Wooden.
Yeah. Same way they, Andre, I think the same way they kind of like it was that swing year between Alcindor and Walton when they didn't realize Wicks and Rowe were coming at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very good. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You and Turkovich were, Coach Wooden singled you guys out as perhaps the best defensive backcourt he ever had. That's high praise.
Yeah. Well, that is something because he very rarely did it. And, Pete and I were known for other things that we, are known for, myself ball handling and passing and all these other things. And, I used to be a walking triple-double in high school. And Pete was a scoring machine. We used to call him, Pistol Pete Turkovich, so he could score points and all, but he had to make sacrifices too. So you didn't get to see all that, in Coach Wooden's system because we had so many great players. But when the time was needed to bring it out, we brought it out to take care of the business at hand to prove that we belong with the other championship teams too.
That's so great. It's so exciting to talk to you and to just dip in this part of history of what's just NCAA basketball has changed a lot over the years, but back then it was such an important part of both regional and national landscape. And it was such a point of pride in Los Angeles. So you came from Philadelphia in the Overbrook High School, this legendary high school that Wilt Chamberlain, Walt Hazzard, and others had come from. And how was it that UCLA was on your radar and you would come out to Los Angeles?
Well, Lou Alcindor had a big part to do it, who is now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I grew up, we used to play New York, Philadelphia games growing up. And so we knew the New York players and New York players knew us. And we each age group, 12, 14, 14, 16. So I grew up in that system of doing that every year. And so we learned about the New York players. They learned about us. And I was taught to play basketball to win. And that's what I did in high school. It wasn't that I was, the greatest, athletic person. It's just that my IQ in the game and my ability to see the game and handle the ball and just do whatever it took to win is how I played. So I was attracted to a winner like him that won all these games in high school. I actually tried to duplicate some of the records he did in high school just as far as winning, even though he was a center and I was a guard.
When you came out west, I understand one of your early roommates was Craig Impleman, who's been on our show. People that watch our show will remember Coach Imp, grandson-in-law to Coach Wooden, and he's quite the character, Andre. I would imagine he was a lot of fun to room with.
Yeah, he's one of the first guys I came with, and I fixed him a meal that he'd probably laugh about. I'm not going to tell the audience what was in the meal, but it was good. He said, I've never seen anybody cook that like that before. But, we got along, and he was very like a gym rat type of guy, so I liked being around him because he was a basketball guy. He just loved to play basketball. No, he wasn't on a team or anything, but he loved basketball, so he'd come in the gym and, and whatever I wanted to do or he wanted to do playing basketball, we would get at it. So it was a good first roommate to get to bring my comfort level, being so far away from home and, connecting in with somebody. So Craig was the first step in, bringing comfortability to me here in Los Angeles.
I would imagine there was quite a transition for you, not only coming, from the East Coast to the West Coast, but then Coach Wooden wanted to break down your game and kind of move you towards being a facilitator away from being a scorer. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but it's not a matter of Coach breaking down. Obviously I've had years, and I'm writing stuff about it as we're speaking, and have been writing stuff about all of this stuff. But it's not so. And so I put a lot of thought in, is what I'm trying to say. So, but, it's not so much breaking the game down. I played to win. That's what I came to UCLA to prove. I can go with the best and continue to win. And that's what I wanted to do. So that was my mindset. It wasn't. I played basketball to win. People kind of walk over that. I wasn't caring about the points and who was the star. I wasn't into that when I was the star in Philadelphia. I wasn't into that. I wanted to win and play good basketball. What Coach Wooden, ended up. It felt like that in the beginning, like what you said about breaking down my game or whatever. But now I look back at Coach Wooden did what it took to win, and you have all these players. You got Bill Walton. He's shooting, 67. It's almost 70% from the field. You got Jamal Wilkes. He's shooting even a 15-footer, around 60% or so from the. You got guys, Richard Washington, great shooter. There's a lot of people that can score. So if everybody did what they could do, and I started doing what I could do, because I would dominate the ball, because I had got the rebound and get the ball to me. Running offense, you get it. So I could have drove to the basket 1,000 times. Now I could have got 30 a game and 10 assists, which was my normal hookup when I played basketball. But will we win the championship?
Right.
So that's the question. Would I get in the way of Walton? And I'm taking shots that I can give it to Walton. He's shooting 70% from the field, whatever. So when you look at it more, with time going by, you see that Coach Wooden did whatever it took, and that's all he was about. He wanted to get the guys to play together and be the best that they can be. And most of the time, if you did those two things, you're going to win without him having to say, go out there and win. He trained you.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about that 1974 team. Favorite part of doing this and getting to interview guys like yourself is diving in. And I'm fortunate to live in this age where YouTube still can have some of this game footage. And so I was able to watch not only your 75 national championship game, but the 74 semifinal game against North Carolina State. And David Thompson was something else, boy. He was something else.
Oh, yeah.
He was something else.
Skywalker.
Oh my goodness! And Tom Burleson played a really good game. Did you feel like that game got away from Coach Wooden a little? And I'm going to say this, and I'm the biggest Coach Wooden guy, but it just seemed like North Carolina State dictated pace throughout that game, and they pulled it out, and it seemed like they did a really good job of managing the game.
Yeah, let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
So first of all, Coach Wooden had some tough decisions to make. You got to understand, the team that won his championship in 1975 was on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I played every minute in 1975, and they added an extra game. That's a little bit of history. They added an extra game in 1975. It used to be 4 games you had to win the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
So they added a 5th game, which was another whole story that I write about, but I'm not going to get into that now.
Mm-hmm.
So Coach is sitting there, and so here's a guy, here's a person, you take it into like personal relationships. Here's the girl you've been going to the dance with. You went to the dance with her, the school dance, went to the prom with her. You had your summer vacation with your families, and you went with her. Now you get to this one point where it's a real important situation, and who you going to go with? What girl? What girl you?
Yeah, easy choice.
I'm not going with the girl that got me 88 straight wins. I'm going with the that won the last 2 NCAA championships undefeated.
Right.
I'm going, and that's the part that in later, discussions with Coach that he and I debate over, because what we needed, he actually had it on the bench, but it was a tough decision for him. So I don't think he, you can look at it however you want to. I think he just went what he thought was the guys that got him what they had gotten him, and they would come back and do it again. But looking at it, some of the coaches tried to say, maybe to get me in because we really needed ball handling. Despite everything that happened, about a minute and 45 seconds left, we're up by 7. That never happens. So it was some things, some signs of problems that, little things that were popping up. And maybe for some reason, Coach didn't look at it that way. He just had confidence in these guys. These guys had done a lot for him. Yeah. And I think he just went with his instinct there instead of saying, hey, I got these young guys over here. They got talent. They can, and you talking about handling the ball and keeping the ball safe. That was my expert. I'm AKA the dribbler in the street.
Yeah, you are. I love that you just broke that down for me. That's brilliant. I really I understand exactly what you're saying, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I understand that even at coaching at lower levels, going with the people who got you there. And that makes sense because, like you mentioned, there was a minute 45. You had a 7-point lead. That should have been iced, and you were sitting right there next to him. But fact of the matter was, those guys that were on the court, they did. They were the ones who were part of that 88-game win streak.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. Thank you. You know what? Now I'm feeling a lot better about coaching that game, Andre. Feel a lot better. Well,
when you read the stuff I write, you're going to really feel like you know something because I really take you in. I'm just giving you a surface.
I love it. Okay. We'll look forward to that. Make sure that we're able to push that. Now, in the 1975 season, you guys had another, tremendous season. And as you mentioned, they added another round. And then I think we're looking at a picture just so you know. Oh, by the way, I wanted to let you know I popped on my UCLA hat to interview you, Andre.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I did. And so that 1975 semifinal, it was interesting that the year before you're back in Greensboro, I think. And so you're playing basically in North Carolina State's, hometown. And then this year in 75, the schools had to come out west and they went down to the San Diego Sports Arena, which I've always, called one of the worst arenas that was ever built. But you guys were able to pull out the victory, and that was a big one over Louisville in overtime against Denny Crum, who used to coach, of course, on Coach Wooden's staff.
Yes. Yeah, so we were playing ourselves somewhat. Yeah, they had players at every position, the quickness, the athleticism, and, the well-coached Denny Crum teams. And so it was a very difficult win. But like I said, that year we weren't going to be denied. And it actually, it took all that to win the overtime and this and that and other. But it was something about our team that we weren't going to be denied. And we stuck in there, never gave up. And I tell some more in-depth stories about what happened there. But, yeah, we just never gave up. Yeah, we never felt we were going to lose, and we just knew we had to win. And
I was a big Marcus Johnson fan, because he was a Crenshaw High School guy, so I knew he was out our way. And it was so fun to see him break through and have such a good tournament. Can you tell me a little bit, or hopefully I portrayed, with accuracy, you guys, the what Coach said to you after the semifinal game about how Monday night would be his last game?
Yeah, well, that story's been told. So basically, after the game, Coach didn't really like the media to always just like pounce on you anyway. So he had a little thing that was a little different that they didn't like, especially I guess from when Kareem was there. So, he when we came in, he basically shut the door on the media. Because it's pandemonium at this point. You done won, people jumping all around. It's crazy. Get in the locker room, and he closes out the media, and it's just us in there. And he just told the guys, "Well, hold up, I got something to tell you guys." So we kind of gathered together. One of them, he says, "This is Saturday. Is going to be my last, game." So we were like, I still had another year with them, and some other guys, younger guys, they, their careers, Gavin Smith and Jimmy Spillanes and them type of people, they still had 3-4 years expecting Coach Wooden to be their coach. So now this guy's saying, got there. Type of people, coaches, this is This next game is it.
Mm.
You know, I just, after it sunk all in, I just said, well, you know, he's sending coach out as a winner, period.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, period.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I even, you know, I pulled the Joe Namath or whatever. So, back in the day, you know.
Yep. Oh, man.
Hey, yeah, but we weren't predicted to win, though. Once again, they had in the paper, sure enough, the next day, Kentucky's too strong and powerful. They got this and that. They got reserves. They got this. They got that. And, you know, I wasn't, you know, whatever they say, in my mind was locked in at that point. I don't care what they say.
Yeah, you weren't having that. You weren't having that.
Yeah.
And you controlled the end of that game, Andre. I mean, you controlled the end of that game. I watched that game and looked at it more like a coach than a UCLA fan. And your ball handling, you had the key buckets that came down the stretch. And, you know, you took control down the stretch to make sure that happened.
Right. Well, you know, it's even more to it, not trying to brag or anything. It's even more to it, though, Denny, because if you listen to Kirk Galley, people don't know that, you know, don't go back that far. You know, Galley was like, you know, the greatest announcer around at the time. He pretty much, he's doing your game. Yeah, Billy Packer, who ended up being
right.
the college people of all time as far as college basketball and everything, announced that game. And one of the things that they were saying is that the control of the game that I was doing is something I had learned. See, these guys today don't understand. See, I knew how to do the tempo of the game. That's what made me. It wasn't all this other. You know, I knew how to read the game, mismatches, the speed of the game, what the other team's trying to do, and control the speed of the game when we need to go fast and when we need to go slow. Plus, Coach Wooden didn't put a lot of reserves in the game. So this Kentucky team, they got a whole bench full of guys they running in there. You know, so you had to play the game a certain way, not just playing like mindless. Somebody had to be like, and Kirk Galley started bringing that out. I mean, McCarter is controlling the tempo of the game, you know, and people don't really get into that now, but it's so important. Like today, the value of the way I played then in today's game, they look, every coach in the world is looking for a player like that. They can control the tempo, know when to run, other teams doing, and to know how to pinpoint mismatches and how to milk a game.
Yeah.
See, players today, they'll come down and give the ball to you know, like Dwight Howard or something to the Lakers. They throw the ball into Dwight Howard, and then he scores a bucket. Okay. Then they might come down and pull up for a three. Cool, but you want to play. But see, me, Andre McCarter, is the point guard. No, I'm going to go down there and work that situation with Dwight until they do something about it. Now, they start doubling Dwight because they can't stop him.
Sure.
And we go plan B. But they don't play basketball. It's more of a random, just go do it type of game now. But back then, that style was very helpful in us winning that championship.
Yeah, it was. My producer just made a big play, talking about a big play. She just showed the last bucket in the Wooden era of you going down, you know, the middle after you stretch them out a little bit, reverse your dribble, and then you go down and score. And so our fans got to see that right now. And it was such a big moment. And then they quickly went over to Coach Wooden with this rolled up, you know, program in his hand. And he gave you the double tap where he goes, you know, he has that right. He goes like, well done, Andre, well done. And I was like, yeah, well done. Damn it. That was a championship.
All right. Up next, we have the voice of SoFi Stadium and the LA Rams, Sam Lagana.
All of these athletic clubs were the foundation of amateur sport
and
the Olympic movement. And so it's really cool that coaches is tied into the LA Athletic Club. I think that's
it's amazing. And he was so gracious always. You know, you have the ball here and I mean,
yeah, talking about his penmanship.
Right. It's exquisite, right? And but he was the most humble, unbelievable guy, right? So to get a ball signed or something like that, people would you know, we'd call him up and say, hey, we need to do this for the Wooden Award, because we never really, they had not marketed it much, and we needed to do some marketing, we needed to do some things, we needed some balls signed. And so we'd go out there. So I'm sitting at his house one day, and he's got this condo on White Oak.
In Encino.
Yeah.
Just very, very modest.
No, really modest.
Just who he is.
Right. Much of the colors of the booths in this fabulous restaurant of Casablanca were, the sofa's that orange sofa, and he's got a chair. But you're sitting there, and all of a sudden, you hear this. Outside the sliding glass doors, I'm like, this is my first time in his house. Like, I'm feeling like I'm a young guy at that point, right? And I'm like, Coach, what is that? He's like, it's okay, it's nothing. And I'm like, Coach, what's that noise? He's like, it's just the UPS guy. So he lived on the alley, and he was on basically what would be kind of a first or second floor, but it was above the alley just a little bit. So the UPS truck would come up, and he would just throw the stuff up. And I'm like, what's in this? What are you getting? Well, people would mail him or send him. Mailman would do this, UPS guy, FedEx guy. People would send him basketballs.
They sent him stuff to sign.
Please sign this. And I'm like, well, let me get these off the deck for you. And I'd bring them in. And he would sign every one of them just like this. Such great penmanship.
Unbelievable.
Thank you for your interest.
That's the main reason I brought that is like his penmanship is so good.
Every one of them took
Always
time and detail just to sign it. And then finally I would say, like, what are you going to do with this? He's like, well, I'm going to take it to the post office. And I'm like, well, how are you going to send these things back? Well, I got to box them up.
Oh my God.
He would do all this himself.
Wow.
So once in a while we would
such a good
take
guy.
those things and take them back and just ship them for him once in a while. But every day, can you imagine he would take him down the elevator to his car?
He was
load him up.
He was that. We went to go see him speak at Occidental College, and I took my daughter, and at the time she might have been, Sienna, she might have only been like 6 or 7 or something.
Yeah.
And she sat there, like, she was not a kid who sat still. And she sat there and was mesmerized by him. He's like a Buddha or something when he speaks. It's just like, and she went up to talk to him after and showed him like a card she had made. So, hey, Coach Wooden. And he sat there and talked with her for like 5 minutes. There's this long line of people that want his autograph, but he was so kind. And he'd ask her questions. So now, how do you spell your name?
Yeah.
I was just like, man, what a nice,
gentle
person.
Just great. One of my favorite moments was he called and he said, can you come over? And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I don't, I'm like trouble. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But so I go over to the house, and he was around Easter time, and he had gotten Easter bunnies for the girls, my 2 daughters.
Oh.
And so they have these Easter bunnies. So like, I will tell you, we still have these Easter bunnies.
What a guy.
Because like, you know how your kids will collect all of these stuffed animals, but like, I can't part with this. One, I'm kind of a hoarder, by the way. At least my wife thinks I am. But those things are like untouchable. John Wood went out of his way to give us Easter bunnies for the girls. Yeah, like unbelievable.
So that's brilliant that you're part of that.
All right, we're going to finish off this Wooden episode with City Section Hall of Fame sportscaster Randy Rosenbloom.
Is this around the time that you got to work with Coach Wooden?
A little later, a few years later, jumping forward, I was fortunate enough to get hired to do UCLA basketball. I was actually out of work. I went from out of work to the voice of the Bruins on network cable TV.
So network cable TV would have been like some kind of cable.
USA Network at the time. And the last year I did it with Ann Myers on ESPN.
And this is right about when ESPN comes in, maybe?
Well, I did.
ESPN's 83.
I did 82. That was my first year. I did 82.
So you're charting new territory.
84, right in there. But the first year I was on USA Network. So get this, I do the package. It was a handful of games. Coach Wooden was going to be my color analyst. I get a call from the packager going, we've added 1 game to the package. It's the first game. I go, great. He goes, one thing, it's in Tokyo, Japan. I go, I'm in. So they played Temple in Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
I did half the game play-by-play. The Temple announcer did the other one. The Bruins blew them out in the first half at Yoyogi Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan.
What was it like working with Coach Wooden? Was he in coach mode at all, or did he have the distance? Because this is about 7 years after he had been the coach.
Fond memories. One of the things I wanted to do, and I wanted to establish it early, that I had respect for the coach. And I told him, Coach, I'm going to call you Coach on there, but I might call you John at times, and I don't want you to be bothered by that. I just want to change it up a little bit. And he said, no problem with that.
Right.
And we had a good relationship. He was just another guy in the booth, but I tried to tell myself growing up in Los Angeles, watching all his championship teams, he's not just another guy.
Not just another guy.
But the hardest thing is we would shoot our on cameras on the floor at Pauley Pavilion, and we go upstairs to do the play-by-play. We do on top. Well, Coach would start signing autographs. People would start coming up. And I was the bad guy on all home games.
So you had to.
I had to yank him out of there, or he would have stood, and we would have missed our –
He's so
I
polite.
mean, but again,
He's such a nice guy when he does that,
Yeah, but our on camera would have been good because that was on tape already. But Coach, we got to get upstairs, so I had to do that every time. So, and
did you find him to be a good analyst?
I thought he was okay. Again, I was into my thing. He had insight, obviously. I've worked with greater color analysts if you're just breaking them down from a broadcast perspective. But heck, he's John Robert Wooden.
That's right.
So
was he afraid to be critical of players?
I don't remember that. I think he just kind of saw it as he saw it.
The side of him that I enjoy so much digging in, because we work with the John R. Wooden course and with Wooden's Wisdom on this podcast. Both of those groups. And so just digging into his archives and stuff, some of the clips of him when he gets a little riled up are fascinating. He is a competitive guy. You can't do what he did without being competitive, yet he'll always talk to you and say, we never mentioned the word win.
Right.
We always talked about this. Oh, wow. This guy, he was a competitive guy. So I just wondering if he just turned it off or if he was
able to. I saw it once. I'm not sure I really should share the story, but
Please.
I will. This will give you some notoriety. The producers wanted – Larry Brown was the head coach of the Bruins when we were doing the games. The producers wanted John Wooden to interview him, coach with coach, that we're going to put into the show. Larry Brown turned him down.
Oof.
So one of the SIDs came over and told the coach, Coach Brown doesn't want to do it. We'll get you an assistant if you want. And Coach, that wasn't what the producers wanted. That's the one time he was irked, and I kind of had to settle him down.
Would Larry Brown do that because he's trying to escape the massive shadow that Wooden left over the program?
I don't believe
Larry
that.
Brown
I
was
think
just
Larry Brown was probably distant to the media, even though his brother was big in the media, and certainly in later years, Hubie's very big in the
Larry
media.
Brown was a terrific coach. Everywhere he went, he did nothing but win. And I was upset when UCLA let him go. I felt like he should have been their guy.
And when I interviewed him, because I did interview Larry Brown on a few of the shows, I had no problems with him. I know he'd always slap me on the leg. We'd sit down in the stands. He'd slap me on the good job and see you later. I mean, but he'd come and go fast. So I could see that maybe you might have a point. Maybe he didn't want to get involved with the aura of Coach Wooden. I could see that.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode with John Wooden. Join us next week for part 2. Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by Christine Jinbo and me, Marley Rice. Directed by Chris M. Alport with studio support from Alpha Command Unit and shot by bad boy Bobby McCall.
Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories, Inc. You can find us on audio platforms everywhere and the High School Narrative iOS app. You can also view Denny's shows on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV.
Make sure to press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show.
Hey, you know what else would help us grow the show? Hustle on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and more.
We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more.
To find all our social media links, hustle on over to sportstoriesdl.com.
SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement.
The My Stuffed Bags Foundation, with the help of thousands of people across the country, provides children in unfortunate situations with new belongings and new hope through its innovative My Stuffed Bags program. Heroes Movement is a nonprofit that bridges the gap from therapy to getting strong again through small group workouts for any veteran of the United States Armed Forces for free. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We want to give a big thank you to our partners of the show.
So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com.
Sports Stories thanks all of our followers and listeners. And we will see you next time. Hey, thanks, Marley.
Thanks, Chris.
Hi, I'm your typical raccoon. and I like to wash my hands because I get 'em all dirty. Now, I'm sitting here waiting for sports stories to come on soon. So listen to me. I'm Rodney the Raccoon, waiting for sports stories just like you.
Kick it out, Book.